Hey guys, Doug here from Motion Raceworks. Today we are talking about valve cover breathers. More importantly, our new billet valve cover breather. We developed this product specifically to solve a problem. The LS version of engines has a very small breather built into the factory cover, which vents into the factory intake and creates a lot of issues on a high performance engine. If you don't understand the concept of an external catch can system, definitely check out some of our other videos in the description below. We have a great video about catch cans, why you need to get that oil and air out of your system, and how to do it properly. But today we'll focus on the actual valve cover breathers themselves. It's been a point of contention and an issue for folks building cars for quite some time, that we've noticed at least. Whether you have a LS1 or you have a Gen 5 LT1 or you have a small block Chevy, small block Ford, big block Chevy, big block Ford, any motor really, even 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder variants, as you start to add the power, and whether you have a factory valve cover or you have an aftermarket valve cover, you need a way to put a bigger orifice breather on the valve cover. And a lot of folks either have very nice valve covers that are anodized or powder coated, or they simply do not possess the skills to weld a bung on with a proper baffle system so that they can get that air out of the system without taking all the oil along with it. So we developed this product. It is an awesome product. It is probably 6 months or a year in the making, simply because we would start and stop on it because we wanted to make sure we got it right. A couple of our goals with this product line was to give people flexibility to run different type sizes of lines, because not every engine needs a 1 1/4 inch hose. Also, a lot of engines need bigger than an 8AN hose. So as you can see, we designed this with a female O-ring style fitting instead of an actual male AN coming out of the end of it. And the reason why we did that is because everybody has a different need for a size and catch can. There's really no drawback to going larger per se, except for the hoses and fittings get more expensive. So for a guy that's making 600-700 horsepower on an LS engine, you might not necessarily want to run dual 12 O-ring or AN hose and fittings, because it's going to get costly real quick. So having a 12 O-ring female allows you to run a 12 O-ring to 8AN adapter, because you're going to have to screw something in here, so you can go 8, 10, and 12. And that gives you the ability to step up and grow into it, or step down and save some money on fittings. But either way, we have a really viable option for flowing enough air out of your system to cover all of those needs across the board, and it's very cost effective. Now, one of the most important things about this particular valve cover breather, it's not just an attachment, it also baffles the air coming out of it. As you can see here, there is a internal baffle that bolts on, and this whole thing is bolt-on capable. So you can go ahead and just drill 3 holes. You're gonna clear out the middle of it so that it has a place to breathe the air, but you'll bolt on this baffle. There's an internal baffle. So our whole goal with this is to not collect a direct stream of oil that's coming from your valve train. And that's important because you don't want to be draining your catch can every single pass. You also, if it's a car that you drive to shows or whatnot, you don't want to have it fill up and you have to drain it every day or two, because that's just kind of a pain in the butt maintenance wise. So what this valve cover breather allows us to do is get the air out, keep the oil in the system other than the small amount of particulate that's just present in the air. And at that point, your external catch can should be baffled. And if it's not, you should definitely look at the Motion Raceworks one, and it will knock that oil particulate down so that the air goes out the breather on the catch can and the oil can be drained at whatever time you need to do it. Again, our goal here is to get the crankcase pressure out and take as little amount of oil along with it as possible, because A, you don't want to starve the engine of oil, B, you don't want to be filling catch cans, because when they overflow at the track, they get all over in your engine bay. It's nasty, it's not fun to clean up, and it makes a mess, and it can be dangerous. So we dual baffled this thing. Now, one of the cool features about this valve cover breather is that we wanted to design it to be used on any type of valve cover, whether it's sheet metal or billet, low profile, high profile. So for most folks, you're going to want to run just both baffles, because there's no reason to not try and get as much of that oil particulate knocked down and out of the airstream as possible. But for folks with a low profile valve cover, say you're using a factory style LS valve cover, very short, your rocker arms get real close to the actual valve cover itself inside. And so you may not have room for that, or if you have a different version of a 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder, some other engine, the rockers are close, there's really no room to fit that in. You can simply bolt this thing down and use the internal baffle only. We designed this thing with an internal baffle, and what it is it basically blocks any of the air from creating a direct stream into the fitting itself. What this does is it allows you to knock that oil down but get the air out. And if you look at it, the first glimpse you might think, man, that really blocks all the air, it's going to block the airflow. Well, it really doesn't. We created an air pocket around it, and that area is equivalent to a number 12 O-ring fitting on the ID. So it's going to flow as much through here with this baffle in as it does through here with a 12 O-ring fitting in. So rest assured, it's going to flow plenty. It's going to give you a little bit of extra security as far as getting rid of that oil so you don't fill up catch cans. And if you've ever had a catch can that's not baffled, or a fitting on a valve cover that's not baffled, you probably know what I'm talking about as far as filling up oil cans. A lot of folks don't even, have never even heard the concept of creating baffles. So this is a great way to not have to fabricate all of this into your valve covers, and it adapts easily to all of those different platforms like I was talking about earlier. So why is this so much easier than welding and a fitting? Well, it's pretty simple, really. You have a valve cover, you find a flat area. The bottom of this billet breather has an O-ring. So whether you have a rough surface like is on this Gen 5 LT, or you have a smooth surface on this LS, your installation is seriously going to consist of drilling 3 holes and then drilling a series of larger holes and grinding them out, or however you want to trace this and knock it out is up to you. Adapting a large breather onto any of these valve covers with a flat surface is as easy as drilling 3 holes and creating a hole in the middle for the air to flow. So if you have common hand tools at home, you can do that. Basically anybody with any skill set can put some tape over a nice valve cover, drill the 3 holes, transfer the pattern, cut it out, and bolt this sucker down. So what comes with the kit? It comes with a drill template. We wanted to make this really straightforward and easy. This drill template has your 3 holes and your pattern. This pattern on the inside doesn't have to be exact. In fact, a lot of folks will end up putting a hole, as many possible holes as they can, because that will add additional baffling. But I, at least for instance on my own valve cover, which is this one right here, I cut the hole inside out and I'm running a dual baffle system, and I find that to be plenty enough for what we're trying to accomplish here. Also comes with this are 2 baffles. These are the external baffles that bolt on the underside of the valve cover. And then your internal baffles, one of them's already in here, but you have another internal baffle. Now you can choose to use any or all or none of this. Some folks will actually use this, for instance, the high horsepower radial cars running methanol. They make an insane amount of crankcase pressure, and the way they're set up, the way they're ran, the way they create a boost in those things, they actually are just simply trying to get the crankcase pressure out. Those guys do not care about separating the oil from the air. They're running the car, they're servicing it in between passes, so they are going to probably leave the baffles out of this thing and run it straight to a can in the back of the car or a huge box with multiple filters on it, because that's how they run it. So gives you the flexibility to run either or of the baffles or none of them, but you have a drill template and then you have red Loctite. We want you to use red Loctite on every single bolt once you finalize where everything's going and are installing it for the last time. An engine has vibration, it has heat, and can loosen up, but with the red Loctite on a clean, nice surface, it's going to keep this thing in place and give you no issues. Now these are available in polished, because if you're like me, you have polished valve covers, you want to keep everything looking the same, or black anodized. So you have your choice of either. We sell them with or without fittings. And we also sell a catch can kit that can go with it. Makes things really easy and gives you a complete system to install in your driveway, in your garage, in a few hours. Now, one little installation pointer I will give you. This, we actually tapered this valve cover breather attachment so that it was a little bit cleaner aesthetically. So do not line this up with a leading edge or a line on your valve cover if you think you want to square things up, because it will actually cock the fitting. So the easy way to square things up so that you have a perfect straight line, because the last thing you want to do is have your line coming at a weird angle, is we went ahead and squared up this drill template. So you can see it's tapered there, but the outside edges are square. So if you have a line on your valve cover, just simply line that actual lineup, and that will give everything square on the valve cover, just like this one is, so that you don't have that optical illusion and misdrill your valve cover, which can be a headache. So follow the drill template, square this up, and you will have a very clean install. So your next question for us is, what size lines and what size fittings do I need for my particular car? Every system, every car is going to vary greatly, whether you have a 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder, V8, where you place things, how big of a catch can you have, what your motor runs on. For instance, ethanol and methanol cars tend to create more crankcase pressure than a gasoline engine does. And then also your horsepower level, the amount of boost, how your engine was set up. So if you have questions about that, definitely give us a call. We're happy to help consult with you. There's no one size fits all. For most LT, LS combos that aren't on methanol, not making 2,000 horsepower, we try to just go ahead and default to a 10 AN line. 10 AN line and 8 AN line, the fittings and line cost a very comparable amount of money, and that will give you a lot of room to grow. So if you're in that range, that's about the only one I'm going to give you. Just go ahead and default to 10 AN. You cannot oversize those lines. The motor can breathe as well as possible, and it's only going to help you with horsepower and issues. So you might be watching these videos thinking, I don't have any valve cover breather, I don't have any crankcase, but I think things are working okay. A couple of the symptoms that you will see with not having enough crankcase evacuation are you're pushing seals out. For an LS engine, these things seal up incredibly well. They have O-ring seals everywhere. They don't leak like the old stuff with paper gaskets. So they always find the weakest point in the system. For a blower car, we see a lot, and with turbo cars, we see a lot. It will push the front and rear seals out of these engines. They are just simply an interference fit. There's nothing holding the gaskets in. So a lot of engines, when they start to create a bunch of crankcase pressure and it's not evacuated properly, those are the first things to go. They'll start spewing oil, or they'll just push the seal out completely. Another thing is if you have the old breather that goes right on the valve cover, you'll start seeing oil everywhere. Everything from your engine, all that crankcase pressure, it's trying to come out that breather, and a lot of those factory screw-in replacements that replace the oil cap have no baffles underneath them. So you have a stream of oil, you have a lot of pressure, and it's trying to go out that. If you are sick of cleaning up that oil, or you think that's dangerous, don't want it to happen anymore, it's time to step up to a proper or bigger size crankcase breather system with a external catch can, a large size fitting, and lines to go with it. If you are putting any amount of boost inside of an engine at all, I always recommend venting using a catch can and a valve cover breather. Now, a lot of times people ask me, can I put this in my valley cover? Yes, the answer is yes. Some people have luck putting a breather directly in their valley cover. However, I will warn, a lot of valley covers have a lot of oil activity going on in them, more so than a valve cover. And even with baffles, we've done a number of them in-house where we put fitting right in a valley cover, and it just picks up oil. Even, like I said, with a baffle, it will pick up oil. It fills the catch can up extremely fast. So we always default to a valve cover rather than a valley cover. The last thing I will mention, if you are on a factory ECU or you have a car that was tuned to not have a external evacuation system, your tune-ups may need to be altered to adapt to this. It doesn't mean that it's bad or that it's losing horsepower, but you've changed what's coming into the intake, how it's coming in. Of course, you're making it safer and you're making it capable of making more power, but you may need to adapt your tune to all of these changes. And if your PCV system or you had a PCV check valve and it used to connect to an intake, make sure to plug it off, otherwise you have a huge vacuum leak now. So plug that off, run it to an external catch can. You'll love the difference that it makes. It's not going to put all that oil residue inside of your intake, which is dangerous for tuning. It's dangerous for making power, and those PCV valves fail, and that can cause a lot of mess and problem within your engine bay. This is a product that we came up with as a necessity for folks that weren't able to weld their own fittings in and or baffles. That can be an extreme challenge if you live in an area where you don't know anybody with a TIG welder, or a TIG welder does high frequency to do aluminum. That can really be a problem when you're trying to build a car. So we wanted to create something that everybody could use, everybody could utilize, looked great, And again, this is a selfish product. This is something I've been wanting for myself, for my own cars for quite some time, and I knew the market could benefit as well from it. A lot of folks have asked if they can just weld this directly to the valve cover, and the answer is yes, you certainly can. We made this out of 6061 aluminum, so that it was easy to weld, matched a lot of billet valve covers what they're made out of. So one of the cool things we did is we went ahead and put all of the bolt holes inside of the O-ring, so that when you drill the holes for the center and then those bolt holes, that means this whole thing is sealed up. Everything is contained within that O-ring, as long as you don't oversize the holes to where they get into the O-ring, which is very difficult to do. A 3/16 drill bit works great. That will contain everything, so you won't have like those little smudges of oil dripping out as things get pressure and over time as things kind of settle and all that. This O-ring will seal perfectly against any surface that you encounter as long as it's flat. So where do you get these? motionraceworks.com. I'll put the link in the description below, and a lot of our dealers around the country will be carrying these. We love to hear from you guys, so if you have any questions, concerns, or comments, please drop them below in the comments section. That's how we get ideas, that's how we make improvements, that's how we come up with new products and new videos as well. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We will catch you next time.